What's up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. I'm still speechless, man. This is what happens when you record a podcast 20 minutes after a football game. So the Chargers escape with possibly the luckiest break of my entire life as a Chargers fan, and get a win today in Cleveland. So they beat the Browns 30-28. Shit, hello, as I knock my microphone over. There we go. That should be good now. Okay, so live TV. It's a mess so far. I'm shook, man. But joining me today are my guys Tyler and Alex. Alex, what's up, man? How are you doing right now?
What a whirlwind of a day. I don't know. I still haven't processed anything that happened. I'm sure we'll process it all out here, but got the win. Hell of a road to how we got there.
Yes, that's a great way to put that. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. The Chargers won, so that's really awesome. But like you said, I am still processing that was a win, considering the last 2.5 minutes of that game. Would not have guessed that they would have won. But like I said, God's not a Chargers fan, but he fucking hates the Browns. I'm very happy that he sent the locusts today and everything to get a win for the Chargers.
Oh, I mean, we had all of the midges, I think is what they're called. We had, just a rushing explosion from both teams on the ground. So we're going to get into eventually a lot of the positives, because I think there are a lot of positive takeaways from today.
Absolutely.
But of course, we have to start with that final sequence, and really just the Chargers again getting the biggest bailout of my lifetime as a fan. Which is saying a lot. And I think that would also include my fandom as a Utah Ute. I cannot recall getting that fortunate of a break in any game I've ever witnessed for either of my teams. So obviously the Chargers get the interception from Jacoby Brissett, Alohi Gilman of all people, which is another layer to all of this that we have to talk about, because Nasir Adderley, I don't think, played a single snap today. So Chargers get the interception. They need 2 first downs. They get the 1 first down with a beautiful play design to Mike Williams, stays in bounds. You need that second first down after the 2-minute warning. Alex, where was your head after the 2-minute warning, and what kind of process did you go through for those last 2 or 3 plays on offense, and then on defense, of course, after that?
Well, the Jacoby Brissett thing was so weird. I mean, Alohi Gilman being the one who gets the interception on the day and Adderley's bench, just crazy. But it looked like, at the very least, even if he didn't pick up the first down, he could have gotten a couple yards and like continued to just continue the drive if he just ran. And so I was really confused why he threw that ball. Fortunate he threw that ball, I guess. Then there was like the whole 5 minutes in real time of everyone yelling at Mike Williams to get out of bounds. And then he did it correctly on one, and then like kind of one hand catched it and then went out of bounds on the other one. He was pushed out. And yeah, the 4th and 2 decision, and obviously as soon as it happened and the Chargers didn't convert, then of course Ben Baldwin and everyone's replying to me with that. I can't get down with that decision, no matter what context it's in, particularly because it was a 2-point game. If it's a 3-point game, I feel like you could at least say, hey, the Browns are gonna, the worst case scenario is they tie it and send it to overtime, right? But being a 2-point game and the risk associated with that versus, at the worst, if J.K. Scott shanks a punt, it's 25 yards more that they have to drive with no timeouts, right? So I just didn't understand the risk assessment there, especially with the Jacoby Brissett that wasn't really like pushing the ball downfield all day, right? If it's Deshaun Watson in the game, maybe that adds something to your decision making as well. But yeah, can't get down with that decision. But of course, the Chargers get bailed out by another team who missed a field goal. So I guess that's karma for, all the years of it happening to us. Maybe the tectonic plates needed to be shifted back, but someone finally missed a field goal against us, and it felt good. So, I mean, definitely, I think Staley got bailed out. Did not think that this was Staley or Lombardi's finest game, by any means. but they got the win, and I guess that's what matters. I would not call for Staley's head like people are saying in the completely rational 20 minutes after the game chat. But definitely some questions that I'm sure will be asked of him whenever the media availability happens.
Yeah, can't wait to see that one. Boy, the end of this game, the Browns go 73 yards in almost 7 minutes, and then they throw an interception to us just standing there, Alohi Gilman. It's like, okay. So I'm elated because it feels like the Chargers can make it work. And then they run that great call to Mike Williams, and they're moving down the field. It's like, okay, forcing the Browns to burn the timeouts. I mean, and that really was the difference. Like that particular play and how far it might have moved them and the timeouts that they burned, that ended up being the difference. But man, that missed field goal, or we'll go with the decision. First, let's talk about Keenan Allen. I do have to bring it up because I've never seen, Keenan's usually in the game. But
yeah.
After they go for it, Keenan Allen tweeting, what the fuck are we doing? WTF, but so glad he missed that because man. I mean, I got a message after the game that said Cade York just saved everyone's jobs, and that's really true. Like Cade York, now 54 yards is not an easy field goal with Locust flying around. Don't get me wrong. Like it's not like they got bailed out by a 27-yard miss, but man, the Chargers really were fortunate there. Good for the defense, I guess, for moving them backwards, I believe, a little bit on one particular play or whatever it was, or just holding them enough where it wasn't too bad. But man, so Arjun pointed out that the decision to go for it on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 was very different. 4th and 1 was an 11%, something like that, win probability increase if you go for it. 4th and 2 was about 6.5%. Which is still a strong go for it, but there's a difference there. So I think when you see the numbers on Twitter, it's kind of like was it really a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 1.5, whatever. I don't know, man. To me, just reading that, you're saying that, and I guess it is true. Justin Herbert's your best player. You're trying to put the ball in your best player's hands and get it to your best offensive player. That's debatable right now, but that in that moment was Mike Williams. I get that, but I'm also kind of reading that as, I'm a defensive-minded head coach who has no fucking answers for the Cleveland Browns right now. And I'd rather my offense go out there and figure it out than my defense honestly, I expected, like, if they punted it and the Browns got the ball back, I honestly would have expected the Browns to march down the field and get a field goal or miss the 54-yarder or whatever. I get, trusting the numbers, and I sort of get giving, Justin Herbert, like, we would want to see that, I guess, but just overall looking at it, even taking that into consideration, I don't agree with it. And it's a shame that you couldn't even trust your defense that you've spent so much money on as a defensive guru head coach, bringing your guys. You couldn't even trust them to hold Jacoby Brissett from getting a field goal. Now, or maybe they also just didn't trust J.K. Scott. I don't know. But yeah, a lot in there for sure. But my reaction is basically the same. The Chargers basically, even though it was a 50-yard, 4-yarder, got bailed out.
Oh, sorry. I think I must have got cut out there for a second. But so, like Tyler was saying, I think we're generally a pro analytics podcast here on this show.
Sure.
But that decision, man, I think for me, like the way that this was handled, from the whole game perspective, is that Staley was pretty conservative on 4th downs, as he kind of has been, throughout the season. They went for it early in the first half. But he took field goals, he took punts whenever he was, given the opportunity. And then to say, oh, like, this is just like last year, we're just going to trust our offense because we don't trust our defense. To me, that was quite an indictment. And also, like, the 3rd down play call before that was like, okay, like, to me, the 3rd down play call indicates that they were going to punt, that we're going to try this run. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we're just going to punt, and we're going to, play for the defensive side of things. So I didn't like the way that was executed at all. I cannot stand shotgun runs on money down situations. And Joe Lombardi, for the most part, I thought called a pretty good game outside of 3 or 4 calls here or there. But calling a shotgun run late in the game when the Browns know you have to run the ball, they know what's coming. And, you're in an 11 personnel look and you do a shotgun kind of delayed handoff, I think, was really, really bad as well.
Mhm.
But to me, like I said, that indicated that they were going to punt after that if they didn't get the conversion. So I didn't love that. The play call on fourth down was fine. I think you trust Justin and Mike Williams to make a play. Mike had been really, really good today. Very different game than last week. A lot more jump balls today, but I just am in shock, man, that you trusted your defense like either that little or that much, depending on how you want to look at that situation. Because the Browns needed 10 yards to get like a comfortable field goal. And luckily, like Tyler said, they didn't really do that. So, I mean, Cade York missing 2 field goals, he was perfect heading into today. He was 8 for 8 on field goal attempts heading into today, and he missed 2 kicks today. So that was the most fortunate Chargers break that I have ever seen, like I said. And again, we'll get into a lot of the positive takeaways, but I do not support the decision making down the stretch that the Chargers coaching staff exhibited on the field in Cleveland today.
Yeah, and I think Steven put it perfectly right. There's a difference between being like a pro analytics podcast, like he said, and agreeing with everything the analytics says, right? Because analytics at the end of the day are supposed to be a tool, right, that you use to make decisions. But it's not like, oh, well, everything that the Ben Baldwin bot says on Twitter is what we do, right? So, I mean, there are situations where you have to account for who's the quarterback on the other side of the field. What is our defense? Like Staley has, alluded to in the past. Speaking of Mike Williams, like Steven said, I think that the NFL should fucking apologize to him for taking that touchdown off the board. God. He had 2 toes down. I don't give a fuck about his heel. He was inbounds, and that should have been a touchdown. Austin Eckler luckily kind of saves it, but man, I never complained about the refs, and I was losing my shit.
I don't understand the difference. Like, you can go to the sideline and like drag your toes going forward, but if you're falling backwards, like your heel also has to touch downs. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't get that at all. Michael Peterson pointed out someone was telling him that it's because he was going backwards, but that's so stupid. I don't understand why that. Like if you catch that on your toes and then your heels touch, it's not one. But if you catch that on your toes and twirl and fall forward, that's a touchdown. I don't understand. I mean, again, thankfully it doesn't matter. But yeah, that was a great catch that he absolutely should have been given credit for. I'll give him credit for that. Honestly, watching film, that will be a great play for him. I will grade him highly on that one because that's a touchdown to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, any other takeaways, guys, on the end of game sequence here?
No, they won. So, let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, a lot of positive things to take away. There's obviously some other negatives besides the end of game sequence. But for me, the story of the day, I think we successfully bullied Sony Michel out of the rotation based off of what happened today. I mean, our guy Xander Horvath had 2 carries and 1 target, and that's more than Sony Michel had today. So, in all seriousness, kidding aside, I thought the Chargers rushing offense today was so good. And, the broadcast did a great job talking about the kind of runs that they were doing as a lot of man gap power scheme kind of rushing attempt today. So Austin Eckler had a fantastic game. Joshua Kelly looked just powerful, crisp, explosive, efficient as he has been. So I thought heading into this game that they needed to feed the rushing attack, and they did. And I think Joe Lombardi deserves credit for the game plan overall. Absolutely. Again, I think there were definitely some calls that I strongly disagree with, like a fullback dive on 3rd and 2.5, and then that shotgun run. But for the most part, man, the Chargers rushing attack looked night and day from what we've seen over the past few weeks. Lombardi deserves credit. The running backs deserve credit. And the offensive line deserves a lot of credit. It was a lot of Zion and Trey Pipkins, which is a whole nother thing we have to talk about as well. But the Chargers rushing offense to me was the positive story of the day for sure.
Yeah, definitely think their ground game was the big story. I think we have to declare that Arjun is now washed as a result of Austin Eckler making me shit. Yeah, but I was just happy to see Peak Eckler back. I will say the beginning of that game where he has that 71-yard run and then they just have 3 straight shit plays right after that. I was like, great, because I was watching the game on delay. I'm like, well, I know they don't score on this one, so but what a performance by Austin Eckler. I mean, we sort of saw a little bit of it last week against Houston, but this definitely looked like that 2021 Austin Eckler performance where he really puts it all together. And like Steven said, trusting Joshua Kelly when all the numbers say that he is the second best back on the team, and everything says that he's arguably the best runner on the team. I mean, I think that just was a really great decision. And I honestly did think on that last drive where the Chargers got the ball back after the interception, I was like, here's 3 straight Sony Michel runs coming right up. 100%. He's well rested. But Brandon Staley and then Joe Lombardi resisted the temptation to put Sony Michel in. So I definitely just think from a personnel perspective all day on offense, it was about as good as you asked for all of the personnel problems that maybe we've had throughout the season. Thank God Trey Pipkins was able to come back into the game. Because I could have not taken 2 halves of or 3 quarters of Storm Norton. But yeah, thankful that he was able to come back, and overall just a very optimal day for offensive player usage and all the things that maybe we have been complaining about over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, really quickly before Tyler jumps back in. So Eckler goes 16 for 173 and 1 on the ground. Joshua Kelly goes 10 for 49 and 1 on the ground. I believe there were at least 5 explosive runs total from today, which again is way more than they had in the first 3 weeks. And I think the rushing yards over expectation will be very good for both of those guys as well.
Yeah, if there's ever a day to get the ground game going, it felt like this one, especially if we had to watch some Storm Norton. Thankfully, we didn't, but real credit to everyone. Credit to the line, credit to the backs, credit to Joe Lombardi. I mean, Herbert handed it off, I guess. He had a run for a first down today. That was awesome. There was also one where he lost one, and there's another one where he dove early. But you know what? We'll talk about that because we won today. The run game got going. And again, my biggest thing with Lombardi was the execution on offense. It wasn't the play calling. It was the fact that you have those calls and nobody can execute. It felt like today people were, and it seemed like, I don't know, watching this one time through, that Matt Filer had a really solid game. And that's something that we couldn't have said last week or maybe several weeks. I don't know how it looked in pass protection, but it felt like overall Herbert was mostly kept clean. The rushing attack was clearly very, very good today. And they were able to run left when they needed to. And of course, they ran right and had the wide open touchdowns as well. And running right does seem to be the best side for them. But still, it felt like a pretty solid game overall for Matt Filer, who we've been kind of, highlighting as a negative and a disappointment so far. Looked really, really solid. Like the offense to go on the road, score 30. Again, no Keenan Allen. Myles Garrett comes back. Jadeveon Clowney comes back. The Browns with all that talent. And for the most part, the Chargers, outside of, I think it was a false start penalty pulling Parham off the field, and they get 5 yards backwards. They can't score. Outside of Palmer, if Palmer catches that pass for a first down that gets them at like the 1 or 2 yard line, we're looking at even more today. So the Chargers be able to still put up 30 today was really, really encouraging. And I think the Chargers are starting to find their stride at this point. It's so obvious that Kelly needed to get more snaps, but now it's so obvious that this is your starting duo by a million miles, and this has to be what you do moving forward. There was just sure, Sony Michel probably would have had a decent day, like one of his better days today, because I think the blocking was pretty solid overall. But Joshua Kelly, as a receiver, as a runner, just got 2 more yards, 3 more yards than he had any right, to get, because he was beating somebody else for just a bit more. Yeah, Eckler, Kelly, make that your starting duo the rest of the way. It feels like Eckler, Jackson last year when they finally got that to click for them. Yeah, your rushing attack is working. Whatever you're calling, whatever it is the last 2 weeks, it's working. Those are your best 2 backs. Herbert's now looking more comfortable. I think he's, he's slowly going to get to a point where he can also run himself. This is it. If the Chargers can figure out how to run the football and Herbert can move more and you stick with those 2 backs, that is huge, huge, huge for this team. And their schedule the next couple of weeks isn't all that bad.
Yeah, and to your point and to Marquise's point here in the chat, Donald Parham definitely made a difference today. He, I'm going to confirm this on the film, but there were 2 or 3 times where the Chargers ran either a toss concept or a counter concept, and when you want to do those kind of runs, you have to have a tight end at the point of attack on the edge, able to handle their business and handle those assignments. So I thought Donald Parham and Gerald Everett had some really good blocks today. I can't recall a whole lot of Trey McKitty. I'm curious to see the snap counts there. But I thought overall the run blocking and the pass blocking today was fantastic. You know, Holden pointed this out earlier. 0 sacks for Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. 0. And I think they only hit Justin Herbert like 2 or 3 times. Looks like Alex is back too. So I thought the offensive line generally played fantastic. Lombardi and the coaching staff deserve a lot of credit for their overall game plan and keeping Justin Herbert clean. Justin Herbert obviously deserves a lot of credit. His pocket management today was so good. And you can really tell that he's feeling much more comfortable physically. And then, you know, the offensive line deserves a lot of credit as well. So, Alex, welcome back. What'd you make of the offensive line's performance today, man?
Do we have any final numbers on Jamari Salyer yet, or really anyone?
Arjun, you're no longer washed. Can you tell us?
Arjun, please tell us in the chat. No, I mean,
Arjun said he sent pressure numbers on Twitter, so I'll go look at that.
Okay,
right now.
Yeah, if you want to check those. But I thought Jamari played really great all day, as much as you can ask him to. And for them to kind of survive the few Storm Norton steps that they had to go through, Trey Pipkins was really great. I wouldn't imagine that the Filer pressures were high, or at least it didn't seem that way watching the game.
No. So official numbers, well, not official, but first watch numbers, Jamari Salyer 6 pressures, 0 hits, 0 sacks though. So I mean, you'll take that against Myles Garrett, 100%. Trey Pipkins 2 pressures, Storm Norton 1 pressure, and then Lindsley, Filer 1 pressure each, and then Zion Johnson 0 pressures today.
I mean, even if you get 6 pressures, like none of them really led to much, it felt like, on Justin Herbert, or at least maybe he threw the ball away in a couple of those. But to me, anything, I think I said before the game, anything that was around 5 pressures or fewer for Salyer was kind of a win for me. I mean, in his second game being against Myles Garrett and a force like that, I think that's a huge win for him there. And then obviously everyone else on the offensive line just sort of did their jobs today. And that's, I think, the most you can ask in, you know, obviously this very long stretch of the season where they'll be without Rashawn Slater, because I think if you just asked all of us a month ago, hey, Jamari Salyer and, you know, Trey Pipkins and some little bit of Storm Norton is going to be the Chargers starting tackles against the Browns, we would have all said that the Browns won 42-28, right? Like, or 42 to.
I don't even think I would have. I don't think I would have felt comfortable with 28.
We would have said 42-17 or something like that. So, you know, for them to, you know, adjust and adapt on what the offensive line situation has been this year, you know, even with the Lindsley stuff, the Filer stuff, obviously the Slater injury, I think has just been a great job. And Zion Johnson and Trey Pipkins just continue to do what they've been doing all year and holding down the right side, which, like I said, on the award show we did yesterday, has been the biggest upset of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to see him back. I know people don't really like the Lombardi offense, and I get why somebody wouldn't or anybody wouldn't, and there are definitely reasons not to. Today was kind of the reason why you run that particular offense, or at least why you have that conservative short part in there, because there were several reps where Jamari Salyer is clearly beat by speed to the outside by Myles Garrett. And again, who isn't? But Herbert got the ball out several times very quickly right before he got there, right? There's 6 pressures allowed by Salyer, but 0 quarterback hits. That's kind of why you also run this offense as well. I did think they took, you know, a good number of deep-ish shots today, all things considered. But yeah, things look pretty solid, and I'm happy with the way it all turned out. Yes. Oh, my shirt, by the way, this is from the team store, so it's a bunch of like patches and whatnot from.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know. It's lovely. It's also slightly expensive, but you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, the team store has some great stuff. This one that I'm wearing is like a retro-y neon sign looking shirt, so I really like it. Yeah, I think, again, like, people hate it when we, you know, give Lombardi credit and stuff like that, but I don't think people understand how difficult what they're trying to do on offense is when you go without Keenan Allen, without Donald Parham, without Rashawn Slater. Corey Lindsley's in and out of the lineup, and Matt Filer has been bad, although today he was good. And they're completely changing their rushing attack. Like, they were so heavily reliant on outside zone last year and kind of counters off of that. But they're completely changing their running game on the fly, and it's working. So the coaching staff deserves the offensive coaching staff deserves a lot of credit today for the way that they kind of attacked this situation. And like Tyler's saying, there was I really liked the blend of like quick passing concepts and the play action deep shots and the fake toss plays that they ran today were fantastic. I loved that play design. So again, outside of 2 or 3 calls, I thought the offense was very clean today. You can see that Justin is really getting his confidence back after the injury.
100%.
Still not there 100% as a runner. He did have the one first down, like Tyler mentioned, but this is it. The offense has really been able to build off of last week against the Texans. So I think you should be very encouraged as a Chargers fan, and I think we all are, of the way the offense has responded after the Jacksonville game. So we'll talk about the defense in a second here, but offensively, the Chargers did a lot of good things. Mike Williams had a huge day. Austin Eckler had a huge day. Joshua Kelly looked great. Wasn't a ton of targets to go around from the tight end room. Joshua Kelly was actually their second leading receiver in terms of yards with 33. So it was really basically like a running back day and a Mike Williams day. And it worked, and the offensive staff, again, deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and I think what Justin Herbert just did really good at in that second half was just, there were some big throws, particularly in the first half, like the Mike Williams one that kind of got things going for the team. But just kind of reading between the lines and getting what he was given, you could say, like on that 3rd and 6 to DeAndre Carter, obviously some of Joshua Kelly's touches, Mike Williams as well, sort of picking up a couple conversions. So for me, I would just say in a game where he was getting a decent amount of pressure on him, at least, for him to have the pocket presence he had, like everyone's kind of said, I just thought was really good. And he's clearly one of those top 5 guys in terms of pocket presence and his stature, and he's only getting more comfortable in that regard, as today proved.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see a bunch of super chats today. Always appreciate those. We'll get to some of those questions for sure. And then obviously big shout out to Tyler's dad with the big $50 super sticker. So this is definitely something I wanted to talk about today as well. Not necessarily really like harp on it, as LA Chargers fan points out, but the Chargers had 2 false starts. Josh Palmer dropped a pass at the 1. So it wasn't a 100% clean day, but the second false start on Donald Parham, I really wish that Justin would have realized that, or that Jamari would have realized that Myles Garrett was offsides, and you just snap the ball, take that defensive penalty, see what happens. But that was poor execution for sure. And then, like I mentioned, the fullback dive really kind of killed the drive as well. So again, not a 100% clean day, but feel like the offense took another step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and it feels so easy. I'm about to sneeze, so I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can. When Keenan Allen comes back, I mean, he had 2 against the Browns last year. I think it was 2 slants as well. When he comes back, I feel like that just kind of fixes some of your 4th down issues. A little surprised they only went to Donald Parham once. They did it once, it didn't work, and then they're just like, yeah, well, that's as much as we'll try that today. I'm a little surprised they didn't go to him more, but I think he just came back, and I don't know if they were just kind of testing him, seeing what's going on. But I feel like the red zone stuff will get figured out. Josh Palmer dropping that not fourth down, the 3rd down pass or whatever it was, that was rough. They didn't show replay, and for whatever reason, the broadcast just hates showing. They just love telling us what happened rather than showing us, oh, there's the drop. Oh, there was the tight end wide open down the seam. Didn't get to see it.
There was Donovan Peoples-Jones wide open in the middle. I'm like, okay, can we see what happened though?
Right. Why? Where? Who? And no, couldn't figure it out. So seemed like a drop. This is the funny thing with Palmer is watching him on tape last year, or even just watching him in the off season, watching him on tape last year. Oh, look at the routes. He's getting open. He's running so well. He's looking so good. But I guess the reason I thought he would have more or do more is, he looked good, but they never actually threw to him as much as they did. And so for whatever reason, they're throwing to him now, and he's either dropping the pass or the chemistry is funky. And I didn't see that on film with it. You don't throw it to him. I'm just going to assume that if you're wide open on this route, that you throw it to him and he'll catch it, and that's great. But it seems like, he's still getting open, or things are still kind of working, but then there's the chemistry is off, or he's just dropping the football. So didn't expect that. I guess it's kind of good. Like, you can see where he can improve, and as soon as you connect those things together, there's room. But right now, it's a bit disappointing because it's costing the Chargers a couple of times so far.
Yeah, definitely see the route to where it can improve. I mean, Josh Palmer just needs to get his game there. I mean, Herbert's, in sync with Mike Williams, in sync with Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett, and all these guys. And as long as Keenan Allen is out, probably going to be out next week as well. We don't know yet, but Josh Palmer's probably going to play, the same amount of snaps he's been playing. And so, crucial drops. I mean, the Chargers just can't afford the drops he's been giving them, and also just some of the mistakes between him and Justin Herbert, and the chemistry being off, like Tyler said. But called him one of my disappointments yesterday, and I don't think he's changed that perception for me.
And it's not going to get easier for him to produce once Keenan does come back. I mean, Gerald Everett wasn't super involved today as a pass catcher, but he's on a pace for a career high in targets, so we'll see what happens with Josh Palmer. Wasn't a ton of production from him or DeAndre Carter, although DeAndre did have the one really crucial third down conversion early or probably midway through the fourth quarter, I want to say. But it was a huge Mike Williams day. 13 targets for him. Again, probably should have 11 catches for 170 yards and one touchdown instead of 10 for 134. I forget exactly how long that pass was, but big day for him. Big day for Joshua Kelly in the passing game. Austin Eckler 4 catches, 26 yards. So no targets for Bandy, no targets for Jason Moore, but you didn't really need them today. So like I said, positive step in the right direction for the offense today.
I believe I did say Mike Williams 10 for 140 and 2 touchdowns in our bolt predictions.
You did.
And one of the touchdowns got taken away. So, I was close.
I mean, in terms of bold predictions, right? Like that's, I think that's as close as we've gotten in quite some time. So, makes sense. All right, guys. Any other takeaways from offense before we get to the defensive struggles and a couple positive standouts, I guess?
Not really a take, just that the offense will have to score 30 every single week for this to be well, maybe not against the Broncos. 7. But they're doing okay on offense right now, and I'm feeling good about the momentum.
Yeah. Russell Wilson had a pain injection shot over the weekend, so we'll see what happens with the Broncos next week. Again, primetime Justin Herbert next week. That should be a game the Chargers win.
Maybe with that pain injection, he'll finally see the KJ Hamler,
Yeah. Maybe that fixes his eyes as well as his shoulder. Okay, we'll talk about the defense. There are definitely a lot of negative takeaways. I will say I was very critical of Christian Covington heading into today and the decision to play him over Otito Ogbonnia. But Christian Covington deserves a lot of credit for making that one specific play that gave the Chargers a lot of momentum, and ended up, the Chargers, I think, scored a field goal on that drive. So, Arjun was, man enough to give credit for a bad take. I'm man enough to give Christian Covington some props today. So I don't think he had a great game by any means, but showed up big in one of the biggest moments of the game.
I said on Twitter that I thought Christian Covington should have been cut in the second quarter. And I still do believe that, to be quite honest, but He did get the 4th down stop, tackle for loss, which obviously came up really clutch for the team. And what a decision, I guess, to sub out Jerry Tillery for Christian Covington and, still have it work. So, I mean, that was obviously a really great stop. They needed it at that moment. And Christian Covington came through.
Yeah, I agree. There's the 1 4th down play. That was awesome. And the Chargers absolutely needed that. The Browns also ran for almost 7 yards a carry. So not that was all Christian Covington. It's not just Christian Covington's fault. And Otito wouldn't have fixed 213 yards on the ground from the Browns today. And that's with them getting away from the run. I'm actually surprised they didn't run it more than they did, because they were getting whatever they wanted for the most part. And they're like, Brissett can throw it. So whatever. If they want to keep doing that, that's totally fine. That's what the Raiders did, and they lost for that almost same reason. But yes, Christian Covington, well done on that 4th down play. Yay.
Yay. I mean, a lot of places where we could start with the defense after Christian Covington. Wanted to make sure I got that out of the way. this was definitely a game where you really, really felt the loss of Joey Bosa. Not as much against the run. I still think the Browns would still have been very effective on the ground, but the Browns offensive line is one of the best in the business. They hadn't really played like it until today. But they just asserted their will up front against the Chargers. And you could tell, man, it was just like, hey, we know you have Khalil Mack, but we're just going to dare anybody else to make a play. And Arjun said Jerry Tillery had 4 pressures today. I certainly did not feel that. I felt like 1 or 2. But they were chipping and double teaming Khalil Mack on whatever side he was going. Not all the time. Obviously, you trust Cedric Wills and Jack Conklin to be one-on-one against him. But everybody else just got completely locked down on defense. And again, it's hard to rush the passer when you're getting gashed on the ground as well. But the Chargers went from one of the most effective pass rushing outputs last week against the Texans to one of their worst today against the Cleveland Browns. And that makes sense, right? You're talking about 2 of the 3 best offensive guards in the league. You're talking about Jack Conklin, who's a really good right tackle. Sure. But this is going to be the thing going forward, I think, from this defense. They're going to play really well against some mediocre offensive lines. And if they go up against a really good offensive line, you're not going to see a ton of pass rush production at all, because those units will know, hey, we can just double team Khalil Mack and chip him, and then nobody else is going to be able to make a play. So it was a rough look from a pass rushing perspective, because Jacoby Brissett for the most part was just like chilling in the pocket. And then when the Chargers did get pressure, they were not able to get him to the ground. And he had 30 yards on all scrambles, and probably could have had more on that final interception.
QB spy, put someone on him. I mean, that one run where he just was wearing number 7 and he's looking like prime Michael Vick. I'm like, oh my God, please just bring him to the ground. I don't know. I mean, the run game just got gashed. And we kind of knew that coming into the game, right? And it was just a matter of whether the Chargers were going to make enough stops, or in this case, I guess, whether the Browns were going to make enough mistakes, like the Jacoby Brissett interception in the red zone. And so, they did get a little bit lucky in that regard, that you only had to put up 30 points with 213 yards of rushing this time. So for me, no, definitely not the best day on the ground. And this, like last week, even where they did have that pass rushing output against the Texans, still, it was one of those games where you missed Joey Bosa. Definitely think Tillery had an okay game. He did get that one pressure, I think, that forced Brissett to just throw it away, which was pretty crucial on that drive, where I think he ended up throwing the interception. So I believe that was the drive. Could be wrong on that, though. But overall, pretty good game for I was about to say pretty good game for the defensive line. No, it wasn't a good game for the defensive line. But no, they got lucky on a couple plays, but overall, still some of the same problems we were talking about last year. But I think we all went into this game knowing that they were not going to survive that Browns offensive line in general, especially without Joey Bosa. Definitely still need more from Kyle Van Noy, from Chris Rumpf, anything if you can get it, because right now that pass rushing situation just seems untenable to wait till potentially San Francisco, maybe if Joey Bosa can come back by then. But overall, I guess the schedule definitely gets a little bit easier here from a running perspective for the Chargers, and waiting for Bosa to get back, but still some structural issues that they got to fix.
Yeah, happy to not see Javonte Williams on the schedule next week, because
100%.
Another unfun one for sure. The defense was actually pretty bad today. I think for the most part, they only held them to 28.
Browns missed 2 field goals.
Yeah, they missed 2 field goals
in the red zone.
Yeah, it was so much worse, I felt like. And again, I can't believe the Browns didn't score more, because it really felt like they were, and they didn't. I don't know, I guess yay. But there was no pass rush. I understand the Browns beating up the Chargers in the run game. We all kind of expected that. We had an over-under of 150 yards, and even that felt modest. So them getting 213 and 175 of that from the 2 running backs, fine. But they had what was the answer? What did Staley or what did the defense call or do that other than some good stops and like Christian Covington's fourth down stop and all that sort of stuff? Outside of a couple guys popping up here and there, what did the defense do to really stop the Browns? Nothing. There was nothing that said, okay, schematically we have this figured out. This is how we stop the Browns today, or we were able to rotate different players in. This is how we did it. Or we simulated this sort of pressure. This is how we did it. This is the exotic look that we gave, and it forced him to do this or whatever. No, it was literally just Jacoby Brissett throwing to Alohi Gilman, who was in there because Mr. Adderley got benched for. I'm honestly surprised that he did. Defense was not good. I'm happy the Chargers escaped with a win, but to me, like this was a pretty rough look from the defense because you have, listen to unofficial. Tillery and Mack got 4 pressures each. I don't feel that at all. Although we'll have to distinguish between which ones were earned and won versus somebody held the ball on too long, somebody scrambled. Because Chris Rumph finished with 1 pressure, but I'm pretty confident that's the one where he missed the sack because Brissett held onto the ball for too long or whatever, and then he bailed out of it. So Chris Rumph, Kyle Van Noy, 1 pressure combined. Chris Rumph just had the 1. Morgan Fox had another 2. That seems to be his thing. He said he's always had 2 or more in every game this year. That's great. But otherwise, like the pass rush didn't work. All of Staley's guys didn't work. They weren't covering. Derwin had a bad game. Mack was mostly non-existent until sort of closer to the end. It was just bad. The guys you brought, like Staley, this was rough. This was rough to watch Brandon Staley with almost everything he could possibly want out of his defense outside of Joey Bosa, who is a top 5 defensive end in the league. So that is huge. Or edge rusher, excuse me. To watch this defense basically get moved up and down the field, and they just luck themselves to a win. And Staley thinking he has to go for it on 4th down because he does not trust his defense, like him and his defense, to even hold Jacoby Brissett. It's a rough look. So they won. That's awesome. People are going to say, "Oh, well, be quiet because they won." But like, we do have to talk about the fact that this defense really got beat up pretty bad today, and there really wasn't anything that they did that I thought was like, oh yeah, look at Staley did that to stop the offense today. It really just seemed like the Browns just sometimes didn't execute, and therefore they held them to 28. So definitely worrisome. I hate to be a Debbie Downer after they win, or after the Chargers win, but I do want to talk about it, and I don't want to forget what happened today as they move through the next few weeks where they're really not playing that great of teams.
No, absolutely. This is, definitely a stretch of games where the Chargers defense needs to figure out, I don't want to say figure out their identity, but like figure out who besides, the usual suspects can play, right? Because if you get a pretty bad game by Derwin standards and pretty bad game by Khalil Mack standards, they don't really have those other guys to step up and make those plays consistently and really be like a star. So when things are going well, you feel like Brandon Staley's plans are working. Like last week in the first half and the 4th quarter against the Texans, you're like, okay, I understand this vision. This is working. But today when the defense is just, it's getting gashed left and right, and they officially have a linebacker and a safety problem. Like I'm ready to make that statement after today. Drew Tranquil is fine, but he's not the physical presence that I think you need to run this kind of defense. And Kenneth Murray is not seeing things very well. They're trying to run blitz him all the time, and combining that with a safety room that just is either limited athletically or limited with their vision or limited with their tackling ability. Like, I don't feel good about where the safety room behind Derwin James is at all. And that's with Alohi Gilman. I mean, he was gifted it, right? But, he made a play at the end and he deserves credit for that. But as soon as Nick Chubb got to the second level on any run, I'm just like, this is a 12-yard run. Like, this is going to be an explosive play, because they just don't have that presence back there that they needed. And Kaiser White was not a great linebacker, but he was really good, and they miss him. They do. And I know people don't like it when we kind of harp on these decisions that are impacting here, but I think they need to lean into Troy Reader. I don't trust him 100% as like linebacker 1, but I trust the way that he read things. I trust the way that he is a physical presence. So I think they need to lean in a little bit more and give Troy Reader a chance. And frankly, man, like just play JT Woods. Like at least he's an athlete. At least he can potentially give you some upside back there. If you don't trust Nas to play over a Lohi Gilman, like at least let JT Woods get some reps. Again, not asking him to be safety too, not asking him to play 100% of the snaps, but you have to let your guy develop. If you don't trust Nas to play in this kind of role, in this kind of game, then just give JT a chance, man, and let him get some reps. I'm concerned about the linebackers and safety room outside of Drew Tringle being solid and Derwin obviously being who he is, but he had a bad game today.
Yeah. I mean, linebacker and safety room has been the concern, and I think it's going to continue to be the concern, but I think we're going around the elephant in the room here. JC Jackson. That was really bad. And Tyler talked about him in his disappointments from yesterday. I mean, looking just at the numbers here, David Njoku, Amari Cooper, and Donovan Peoples-Jones combined for 214 yards. I don't have PFF right in front of me, but if I had to go from the eye test, I would say JC Jackson was probably responsible for about half of that. And so for me, just seeing him being a step slow, like we've been talking about him getting his feet back from under him and like getting back to that level, he got pretty much rammed by David Njoku, who is not Darren Waller, is not Travis Kelce in terms of being an athletic specimen, and you shouldn't really be getting blown up like that by tight ends anyway. I think that this is like panic button territory, especially because Asante Samuel Jr. did not have the best game either today. Michael Davis, didn't get a whole lot of run, but not playing too well either. I don't know how this defense functions the rest of the year if this truly is JC Jackson's level and he doesn't, because the Chargers are going to have to win every game 30-28 or, whatever it is, 35-32, if this is really the level you're going to get from JC the rest of the year, because then teams are just going to go, okay, well, we can throw our wide receiver one against JC Jackson and have a decent amount of success. Like the Browns did with Amari Cooper today, who looked like, he teleported back to like his prime in Oakland or Dallas, wherever you want to put it. Because he was really good today. Donovan Peoples-Jones looked like Donovan Peoples-Julio Jones. Like, it was just nice. It was just really tough for JC, really for the whole secondary, like everyone said. But I think as the season kind of goes along here, it just, the Chargers are going to need someone. They especially play like some pretty decent receiver groups, at least in the coming weeks. Not any, Deebo Samuel against the Niners. Then you have the Drake London game, Falcons, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf eventually against the Seahawks with a revived Geno Smith. If you are going to have JC be this level where he just looks a step slow and is getting consistently burnt, I don't know how the defense is going to work the rest of the year.
Yeah, JC, Everett O'Neill in the chat points out JC looked fine in training camp. He should be fine later. I think there's definitely some truth to that. I think this is kind of the worst. I think I said hopefully. I say with a lot of optimism. I think this is the worst of it we'll see from JC, because he literally is not 100%. So hopefully things do get better. I wish there was more info about what his injury. You not have to call it an injury, right? Like, it's not a wound with a healing thing. It's an injury that's currently keeping him from being his 100% self. But yeah, it was rough. I believe it was Jordan, who covers the Texans. I can't remember for what specific channel.
Jordan Pun.
Yeah,
so that's he covers the Texans for Believe, or
there
Believe,
you go,
or however you want to say it.
Yeah, he pointed out that Nico Collins was open all game long against JC Jackson, and we really only saw like the one big pass, but that was kind of on Desir Adderley, and then a couple of things here and there from JC, including the missed tackle. But we didn't really see him get targeted over and over and over again and give up as many yards. This time, he was, and not that Amari Cooper is a bad wide receiver by any means, but it was rough because there was no real excuse for JC Jackson in that particular scenario. I will say, I do agree with some other people in the chat that everyone on defense in the secondary had a bad day. So I don't know if they're just being taught incorrectly, schemed wrong, or what, because it shouldn't be this difficult for this many, I would think, talented guys. So maybe it's also a scheme thing. But I think next week is that week where I will officially hit the panic button if JC is having another rough game. Not that he's not allowed to lose, Jerry Jeudy catches a deep pass for 40 yards. Shit does happen. But if it looks like they're targeting, like they targeted JC Jackson today and they felt no problem doing that. Again, like they have a great rushing attack and they felt okay throwing at JC Jackson today rather than opting to go to the ground because it wasn't super hot. So if next week things don't look so good, then yeah, I'll hit the panic button next week.
Yeah. And I mean, it's Jacoby Brissett, of all people, deciding to consistently throw at JC Jackson, right? Like, which is just, if the Browns played the Patriots last year, like, to me, that's not something that would have happened, right? Like, so for me, or if any team, played the Patriots, JC Jackson was, on an island, like, or he was intercepting a pass, right? So, just definitely a concerning change there in terms of how it feels like opposing offenses are now starting to look at that weakness.
Yeah, I will say definitely not a great game at all by any means. I'm hopeful that the one pass breakup and he had another good he didn't like defend the pass, but he was in really good position later in the fourth quarter. I'm hopeful that that's kind of a sign of things to come, and we'll see if it is. He's going to get a lot of Cortland Sutton next week. We'll see if Russ is able to get him the ball. But then the week after that, it's DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, right? And then they get the bye, right? Then they play the Falcons. You're talking about Drake London and Kyle Pitts. And the week after that, it's the Niners with Debo and Brandon Ayuk. And this is not going to get any easier for JC Jackson. So again, hopeful that this is the end of this game for JC is something he can build on. Otherwise, the Chargers might have to start making some adjustments there. I think the defense overall is in a better spot than where they were at last year, but it's going to be difficult for them against offenses who are well-oiled machines like the Browns are today. And if that scheme, I don't really know if that's the talent. We'll have to go back and watch the film, but they'll play well against worse offenses, right? I think we can comfortably say that. It just feels like they're a middle pack defense at this point without Joey Bosa, and it's better than last year, but that's not what they were obviously hoping for. Any of us were hoping for after you sign JC, Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, trade for Khalil Mack, all this other stuff. So hopefully they're able to rebound because the end of the game sequences for them were at least better than the first half.
Yeah,
kind of.
I gotta see something. Blake, shut down. Why the Chiefs were the one that they could shut down is beyond me. I think it's perfect. Well, Joey Bosa again, that does help quite a bit with the pass rush they had, and I don't know. I'm just a little worried that this is what we got today against again a very elite rushing attack and Jacoby Brissett. Like this is what we had to just look like. I'm rewatch the game. Like what bit of this feels good? I don't really know. I don't know.
Yeah,
it just feels like they don't, like you said, they don't really have what kind of defense is this? Is it like the Chiefs? Okay, I don't think the Chiefs have a good defense. I haven't thought they had a good defense for years, but they know exactly what their identity is, and they will take the football away and put pressure on you. Like even though they'll get killed in some games, and the Chargers have made them pay, they have an identity. I don't really know what the Chargers' identity is outside of we paid a lot of players, and sometimes they're better than your offense. And I don't know. I got to see something from this team or from this defense that shows that they have this identity. Are they? I don't know, because I feel like the Ravens against the Chargers last year, I kind of knew what their identity was. I know what Gus Bradley's identity is, but I don't really know what a Brandon Staley defense currently looks like, other than one that invites the run, gets killed by it, and currently is getting torched in the secondary. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's just there's a lack of cohesion right now, and in the first game against the Raiders, in the second game against the Chiefs, you felt that there was a cohesive plan, right? Like the defensive line was playing really well. Again, you don't have Joey Bosa now. I understand that. But, pressure and coverages were working for the most part really well. They were stopping the run, making plays on the ball. And now it just feels like they've been almost in scramble mode to just try and survive. Alex used that word, survive against the run, in our preview. And it just kind of felt like that's what was happening today. It was not like we're going to be aggressive. We're going to try and impose our will. We're just going to try and like not have 42 points hung on us. And fortunately, that was the case, I guess. So Brandon Staley has spoken to the media. He has made a statement on their decision making for the 4th down. This is what Nick Cothrell of Sports Illustrated, he tweeted out. It looks like it's just a screenshot of his notes app. Brandon Staley said, quote, "We believe in our process. We believe in our players on both sides. We were coming out here on the road to win this game, not kick it and then go hope to win. I believed our defense would get a stop if we didn't make it because I knew that we could cover them. You got to live with it when it doesn't go down. We went for it on the first drive and it didn't go down, and we were willing to live with that. But we know what that means to our group by playing that way. There's no way I was taking our offense off the field at the end of the game," end quote.
Okay. 4th and goal to Cleveland 9, field goal. 4th and goal to Cleveland 7, field goal. Like, I don't really.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where's the next one? 4th and 7 at the Cleveland 9, field goal. Like, are we sure? Are we sure that was the plan?
We believe in the process of fullback dive with Xander Horvath.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't hate the fullback dive. It worked the first week, but I don't really buy that. Like, yeah, we were gonna win on the road and take what's ours, and I believe our guys can cover, despite the fact that they literally were not the entire game.
I mean, also that, like, putting the ball in the hands of your offense when you kicked 3 field goals with a guy who wasn't even on the Chargers last week, like, and willingly, again, not that they were like 50-yarders or anything, but still, like, yeah, on that last one where they kicked the field goal and they went up, was it 27? What was the last field goal they ended up kicking, or prior the second to last one?
Oh god.
The one that Tyler said where they were like at the 7-yard line and they kicked the field goal from there.
Yeah, there was one from the 7, the second to last one, and then there was the one from the 9.
Yeah,
and of course the one before that was from the, I can't find it.
Yeah, so I mean, as much
as talking about the field goal when they got up 30-28.
Maybe I am thinking of that one. But either way, just like Tyler said, getting inside the 10-yard line twice and deciding to put the ball at the feet of Taylor Bertolette when you want to put the ball in the hands of your offense, like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, shout out to Taylor Bertolette, man. He looked really good today. He had some great kicks.
Absolutely, he doesn't get his name added to the long list of Caleb Sturgis and Nick Rose and everyone else. Like, congrats to him.
Absolutely. Kicked some great kicks. I like weirdly was not panicked when he was heading out there, so that's good.
That's because he kicked from the 9.
I know. But still, man, like, bro, like Alex just listed off all of these kickers who have come out and missed in those situations.
Bro, I saw Nick Rose kick against the Jets once, and I think he kicked like one from the 15, and it went like all the way to, it went all the way to Lincoln Financial Field. Like, so I mean, like,
oh my, like, shout out to him, man. He showed up. I saw his kicking percentage from like the CFL and the AAF, and I'm like, this guy, like, really, what are we doing? But he was 100% on the day, so shout out to him. In terms of the situation, so the Chargers on their last field goal, they get to the Cleveland 12-yard line. It was Austin Eckler, left guard, towards the left guard for 2 yards. Then that short pass to Austin Eckler. So then they had 3rd and 7. That's when Palmer had that drop that went off of his chest plate, which was a difficult catch for sure. But then they kicked that field goal from the Cleveland 9-yard line. So it was a 27-yard field goal. I don't know if that's the one you were talking about, but that was their last field goal.
It might be that one. But, like, I don't know. Him talking about process is just funny to me when it's just like, okay, well, if you don't make that 4th down, then your process is hoping that Cade York misses a 54-yarder, right?
Yeah.
Like, same if, which, I mean, isn't that much different than punting in that situation and still making them go more yards with no timeouts.
Like, so the second to last field goal, was when they got up 27-21. They get 1st and goal at the Browns 6-yard line. Joshua Kelly run for 2 yards, so 2nd and goal from the 4. That's when Donald Parham had that false start. Then they had 2nd and goal at the 9. Justin Herbert incomplete pass to Gerald Everett. I forget which pass that was exactly. Then 3rd and goal at the 9 again. That's when they passed it short to DeAndre Carter. And Greg Newsom made a really good tackle. And then they kicked a 25-yard field goal at the Browns' 7-yard line. So
take the points next week, man. Against the Broncos, get to 15. That's got to be the magic number, right? Where are the Broncos currently at right now?
That's what they're currently averaging, 15 points a game.
So just get to 15 and we got this.
Yeah. So Brandon Staley was also asked about J.C. Jackson. And here was his quote about JC. He said he was up and down. There were some good moments and there were some moments he needs to be a lot better. He needs to get in his comfort zone from a fundamental standpoint, and that's still a work in progress. We know he's the man for the job.
Tariq Woolen is a fundamentals in progress, work in progress guy.
And he's balling, man. He's played really well.
He's playing great. I don't think paying someone $16.5 million a year is a fundamentals work in progress guy. Especially because you wanted him, so like you knew that it should fit. So him not getting into a fundamentals comfort zone is an odd thing to say.
Yeah, it would have been one thing if he said, hey, like he's still working back his conditioning, like he's still getting it back there, but being like, oh, he does coverage fundamentally wrong is one way to kind of throw JC Jackson under the bus. I don't know.
Yeah, he has defended him the last couple of weeks, but this week, I guess I'm at least glad he did say like, oh, it was a Lohi Gilman's fault or something.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like JC was taking a couple chances early, and then it didn't go his way, and it was like, okay, I'm just going to play off coverage. We'll see what happens, and make some plays on the ball. So, again, if he's able to continue to get healthy, maybe he's able to, play a little bit more physically. But it was difficult for me to watch like the Browns just be really physical with the Chargers receivers, get away with some contact. They had some penalties for sure. And then the Chargers were just playing off coverage like the whole game. I hope that, again, that's something that can change when JC gets fully healthy and maybe builds off of this, is get him at the line of scrimmage, let him be physical a little bit more often, and be disruptive as opposed to just kind of, again, like surviving out there.
And it felt like when the Chargers kind of did let JC be physical at times, that not that it worked all the time, but like he had that big 3rd down stop on Amari Cooper, that one pass breakup. So like feed more into that as opposed to like the playing off coverage and then expecting JC, who like clearly isn't 100%, to like work himself athletically like back into the play. Whether it's versus Njoku or Cooper, like in this game. So I don't know. Yeah, I definitely think the off coverage combined with the fact that, it's no secret that JC Jackson's not near 100% right now. Just definitely two factors that contributed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll get into we'll end the conversation today with some positive takeaways, as we always do, giving out some game balls, and we'll have some final thoughts as we transition into getting ready for Monday Night Football next week against the Broncos. So, Tyler, we'll start with you, man. Who gets your game ball for today?
Mike Williams. I don't know if I gave it to him last week or not, but I just really think this was a really nice string of games for him now, where he won in a variety of ways. It was a shallow crosser. It was a deep ball. It should have been another one for a touchdown. It was a curl route. It was whatever. Yes, he did go completely horizontal on 1 2nd down reception. Yeah, I was a little bit worried when he caught that one pass and was just kind of waving it like this in the air for whatever reason. But
it was like, a catch, though.
Yeah, it was. But for him to be, I think it was 13-14. So 13 targets, 10 of them catches, 134 yards. Again, should have been a big touchdown as well. Like, that's wide receiver 1 stuff. Like the way they would just feed him the football. And these guys, I thought, Cleveland's got good corners. They didn't really have much of an answer for him for the most part. So really, really solid from him. A 2nd week in a row, more impressive than last week, because doing it once is cool, but that's kind of a fluke. Do it twice now. Technically, it's his 3rd time this season, but twice in a row. Now you're hopefully a consistent wide receiver, and that's huge heading into a game against Denver next week.
Yeah, you could really tell today that Justin just trusted himself, but also trusted Mike to go make these plays. I mean, there was the one back shoulder fade that they threw that was fantastic. Obviously the couple jump balls. So Mike had a great game for sure. Alex, your game ball of the day is who?
Has to go to Austin Eckler, in my opinion. I mean, just this is, even with last week against Houston, to me, this is the most decisive where he just put his foot in the ground, followed his direction, and, it just felt like he a way more decisive performance than any of the past 3-4 weeks. I think, stats from week 1 to 3, 0 touchdowns, week 4 and 5 touchdowns now. So Austin Eckler definitely rising to the occasion. I think Arjun will temporarily say that he is not washed for the time being. We'll have our fun with that. But this offense, especially without Keenan Allen, especially with the problems they have, along the offensive line with no Slater, and all the other kind of deficiencies that we've talked about with Lombardi and decision making, for him to have the great game that he had and really put the team on his back in spite of all that, I just thought was really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Both very deserving. The Chargers have needed those two players to step up without Keenan Allen, and he has absolutely done that, or they have absolutely done that, I should say, so far. So my game ball, I mean, shocker, it's going to be the offensive line. I think this unit has been definitely a work in progress over the start of the season. I mean, you lose Slater, you lose Lindsley. It was a slog for a while, for a long time. And so this is back-to-back weeks where I felt like the offensive line has really taken some steps forward. And I'm so glad that Trey Pipkins is okay. I thought that was definitely going to be a season-ending injury watching that replay. But, you're talking about a unit that blocked for, Austin Eckler career day on the ground, Joshua Kelly, his best game since his first game as a rookie. They were fantastic in the run game. They only allowed, I think the total is 10 pressures, if I'm not mistaken, as a whole unit. We'll see if that changes, right? But 0 hits on Justin Herbert allowed, 0 sacks on Justin Herbert allowed from the offensive line. So this was a really good game from them. They get an opportunity to continue to bounce back and string these performances together. I was definitely concerned about this game, man. I mean, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, that's as good as a duo as it gets. But this offensive line is stepping up for sure, and they deserve a lot of credit. And it's been a true pleasure to watch Jamari Sawyer, Trey Pipkins, Zion Johnson, these 3 young guys come in and really elevate their performances in games where the Chargers have absolutely needed them to.
Chargers game ball to Taylor Bertolet and Cade York for different reasons.
And locusts.
And locusts.
Midges.
Are they just like big mosquitoes? I'm confused.
I thought it was like the cicadas thing, like where they come out like every 17 years or something. Because this is like they come out once a year in Cleveland. I don't know. That's what they said. They're like midges. I don't know.
I mean, this is every October apparently in Cleveland, as if there's more of a reason to not go to Cleveland.
Yeah, Chargers social media team throwing shade at Ohio, and they ended up being
that was great.
Okay, so Thomas Martinez says mosquitoes that don't bite. I thought I saw that they did bite, but I don't know. Either way, the Chargers had that joke about Ohio yesterday on social media, and there were a lot of people upset about that, including people
I thought it was
including
great.
Chargers fans. I thought it was hilarious, especially because Brandon Staley is from Ohio. Like, it was hilarious timing, I think.
I thought that I accidentally slept and like overtook the Chargers account by accident.
Was it Minnesota or somewhere or Cincinnati that you had the big rant last year?
Minnesota and Cincinnati, I think. Really anywhere Midwest.
Big fan of the Midwest. It was funny. Lots of more guy today. Big Midwest guy. Oh man, good stuff. All right, we'll wrap up today's show. Alex, any final thoughts, man?
Got the win, as chaotic as it looked, as it always looks for the Chargers. Hopefully everyone rests up healthy for next week, and we go into a big Monday Night Football divisional game. So I mean, that's going to be really fun next week, and I can't wait to stay up till 2 a.m. doing the podcast again. So that'll be great to get another primetime game in there.
Yeah, a win is a win, but my blood pressure was also pretty high throughout the end of that one. I can't wait to be in class until 7:30 on Monday and then join you guys at some point. So maybe all the stress from the end of this game, I'll be able to avoid that for the most part next week. And then I'll just see what happens. We'll see how many points the Broncos have scored. Hopefully it's not too many.
So I take it you sold the tickets for Monday night?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh
Well,
wait, it's in SoFi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a home game. No, if it were a game in Denver, I think you could chalk up an L right now because weird shit always happens there.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously this game it wore me out, man. That was a very stressful moment. I was in a local sports bar here with a bunch of, I think it was like probably 45, 50 Chargers fans watching the game, and Alohi Gilman gets that interception and all of us are going crazy. Somebody started chanting a "Let's go Chargers" chant, and nice. Ben Simmons passing on a wide open layup comment here for the audio audience. But yeah, man, it's a very strange feeling still, even after like processing it live here with you guys. Like I still feel like they lost, even though they won. But this is the name of the game sometimes in the NFL. This is an opportunity for the Chargers to string together some wins, potentially get back on track. They're 3-2. CBS kept on putting that graphic up of teams who are 3-2 have like a 49 chance of making the playoffs. Teams who are 2-3 have like a 22% chance. So this is a big opportunity for the Chargers to string these performances together and build off of this, at least on offense. We'll see what happens on defense. They definitely need to figure it out. But overall, definitely some positive takeaways as they head into a very manageable stretch before the bye.
Mm-hmm.
So appreciate everybody showing up tonight or this afternoon. I guess it's tonight for some people, depending where you're at. 1:30 in the afternoon. So had a great time with the chat tonight. Shout out to the Central Valley Diehard Bolt Club. Appreciated the hospitality today. We'll see you guys later on. I'm going to be out of town actually this whole week. So it is going to be Alex and Tyler and Arjun kind of handling the preparation for the Seahawks game. So definitely tune in for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Monday. Tyler, Alex, and Arjun will see you guys on Tuesday. Take care.